Welcome to Dragon Radio. I'm your host, M.L.Ruscsak. I'm here with one of our very own authors, T.J.Jourdan. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're good. Now, we have 3 of your books out with Dove and Dragon right now.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting.
I know, right? It's crazy. So let's start with Salvation in the Woods, because that was their first one, and work up to your newest.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. So tell the listeners a little bit about Salvation.
Salvation in the Woods, my first book, is a kind of a throwback to what I really love in life, and that's horror movies. Your basic horror story of friends celebrating something great, and in this case it's getting into college. Want to go on one last camping trip, and they get turned around and end up in the way wrong woods, not where they grew up, not where they're familiar, end up being kidnapped by a sadistic cult, and now they have to find a way out. There's no phones, no access to their car. All it is survival instinct and finding a way out with as many of your friends as you can.
Now that leads us into your second book, which is Revelations in the Woods, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Revelation is the sequel to Salvation. Excuse me. Because, like all good horror movies, you have to have the sequel.
Of course.
Revelation takes place about 6 weeks after Salvation, and the events that happen towards the end of Salvation lead us into Revelation, where there's been the twist, the classic horror twist at the end of Salvation, and now the repercussions of that twist plague one of the characters in Revelation. He has to deal with the consequences of his choices he made, and ultimately living with that guilt.
Now, the question is, with all good horror stories, usually it's third as anthology. Is there going to be a third part?
There will be a third, not yet titled, but the third, like most horror movies in series, is kind of like the prequel. It kind of tells you how the cult came to be in the woods and how they started finding new members and the origin of the cult, and that will lead into Salvation, and then Revelation is more of the final act of the story.
There you go, see? Even as a publisher, I didn't know if you were writing a third one or not, so this is new for me, too. Okay, so we have the trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have a new one that's on pre-order right now through Barnes & Nobles and ebooks through pre-order for Amazon. And the pre-order for Barnes & Nobles is hardcover only, and they're the only one that carries our hardcovers. So what is Labeled about?
Labeled is really, and it's weird to say it, it's really a passion piece for me, something I've always wanted to write, and it is a school shooting book. And it's a unique take on the school shootings that happen here in the world, not just in America, it's certainly everywhere. I remember being 12 or 13 when Columbine happened, and growing up since then, there's not really been a whole lot of media attention as far as pseudo-entertainment on that genre, because nobody wants to glorify it, and that's certainly not what I intended to do. But it is something that needs to be talked about and needs to be looked at from different perspectives, and that's what I tried to do with Labeled, where instead of the typical 2 kids doing these horrible things, mine is a story of 4 kids who did this, and where it becomes unique is 3 of the shooters are already dead. They took their own lives, so that left the 4th one. And now he is on trial, and his attorney is trying to get him off of death row or get the death sentence removed by proving it was peer pressure that influenced his actions into this shooting, while looking at other kids, other teachers, other people that could have stopped this, which is how I look at school shootings. It's not just an open and shut, these kids are evil and they were born that way. Something led to these events happening, and it could have been stopped by somebody.
Well, it's definitely a topic to discuss openly, because I agree there's some things that if we open our eyes to those around us, there's a lot of things that can be stopped.
Absolutely.
But it takes people to speak up to stop them.
Absolutely.
I can't say that for the adults, but at least in high school.
Right. And, that's the troubling thing, is to have that courage to step up and speak up. If you see somebody bullied or what have you, anything, it's hard when you're 15, 16 years old trying to find out who you are and still have that awareness that something is going on with somebody else and they need somebody to talk to.
Exactly. One of the things, growing up being bullied, I didn't have a lot of people I could confide in school. But you're so hard, this is 20 years ago, so hard back then to open up because you're trying to find yourself there. Then you put the peer pressure on you, and then it's twice as bad now with social media.
Oh, yeah. Social media is one of those funny things in life now where it's great, but at the same time, for every great thing that happens on it, there's like 10 things that shouldn't happen on it.
Exactly. I mean, you have the social media bullying. Then you have the social media trolls, which they think they know your life because they look at it as a glance on your social media accounts. Well, that's a glance. That's not your entire life. And then you have the scammers that steal people's identity to try to be them while on social media.
Right. And, I think one of the greatest things about it is if you move, when you're young and you can reconnect with those friends that you left behind. And then, like you said, people see a glimpse of you posting whatever you post, and they have a sort of insight into how you are, so they judge you and they spread nonsense, or like you said, they take your identity, and so it's a give and take. This world now has information at its fingertips with how quickly we can get on the internet and discover things and research things, but most people just want to be a troll or be a scammer and use it for what it's not intended to.
Exactly. If people use things as they were intended to be used, the internet is a great tool. However, we have people out there that decide that, hey, it's more fun to be a troll or scammer or whatever, and then it just causes chaos.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of Labeled, is I had to modernize it, because in 99, when Columbine happened, the internet was still very new. There wasn't social media. And so unfortunately, I do mean that for the kids involved in Columbine, everything that they dealt with was face-to-face. People weren't afraid to tell them what they thought. Now we have the trolls, we have the keyboard warriors that hide under a username and you never know who they are. And they use the cyberbullying, and at the same time at school or wherever you are, they act like your best friend to your face. It's a very two-faced world now, and so that's incorporated in the book as well, where a lot of cyberbullying and
you have
whatnot.
So many different facets to Labeled. I mean, it's all based on what we see now daily, but there's so many different faucets, and it's all started from 1999 till now, basically.
Right. And yeah, of all the books I've written, I think this is my favorite title, because whenever somebody reads it, hopefully they see it from the perspective I meant for them to see it, and they can understand that title of labeled of, well, I was picked on, I was called this, I was called that, and that's kind of behind the scenes of my title there. It's everybody was called something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if you're a popular kid, there you are, you're labeled popular, you know, so.
Right. You're labeled, the popular kids are popular, the jocks, the divas,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm just throwing out words, but they're all labeled something.
Right.
Maybe not labeled that way by their cliques, but by the outsiders.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in a way, we're all outsiders in high school.
Oh, for sure. And it, you know, now that I'm in my 30s, I really do look back at everybody saying, you know, it's a rough age and all this, and now you realize, yeah, it really is a rough age. You know, I know who I am now.
Yeah.
But the 17-year-old did not know who I was.
No. You don't know who you are, who you want to be until you get into 30. Really. When you're 17, you're still figuring out going to college. Do you want to go to college? Do you want to get a degree? Do you go right into the workforce? Do you go into the military? At 17, you have 3,000 things going through your mind.
Absolutely.
And then add everything else to it.
Yeah. You turn 30, the one thing in your mind is, why am I so tired?
Exactly. It's, do I really have to get up for work today? Why am I working this job? I want something better. That's the typical 30. You're not worried about what, you shouldn't be worrying about what Joe Smo next door is doing, but I mean, we do.
Mm-hmm.
But still. So we have labeled, we have the trilogy. What else is coming out, or are you thinking about writing?
I am actually in the process of just starting a new book, and I'm not really sure where it's going with this horrible pandemic virus thing, and everybody's locked in their homes. For writers, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because now we have all the time in the world to work on our stuff.
Yeah.
But then the curse side of it is you get 10 million other ideas for everything else, and it's kind of hard to balance what project you're working on now.
Yeah, I'm personally, as an author, I'm in the middle of 3 different projects. And I'm like, which one do I want to work on? At the same time, I have all these other ideas floating around in my brain.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I just now got the notebook, got my pens all set up to start working on this newest project that's entered the mind, and hopefully I can focus on that long enough to turn out something good.
I mean, this is great, but okay, I'm one of those authors. In order to focus on the next day, I need to spend an hour to hour and a half at the gym the night before.
Right, yeah. You need some kind of outlet.
Yeah, so what's closed right now because of the pandemic? The gyms, right? Which is a good thing that they're closed. I'm thankful they are closed and everyone's staying safe, and yeah, that's pandemic stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, when are they opening? Because I have to get my head back clear. I have 20,000 things going on.
But I understand totally.
Yeah,
I understand totally.
Authors understand authors. It's what we do. It doesn't matter what genre we write in. We understand the brains of an author.
It's the, what is it called?
So.
I lost my train of thought there, but I was going somewhere with it, and this left.
It's cool. I mean, we do this all the time. We get thoughts, we start to say it, and then it just flies out of our head for no reason.
Absolutely. universal fraternity is where I was going with that, because we're all like a big brother and sisterhood here. We, like you said, we all understand each other's struggles and success and everything that goes along with it.
Exactly. Now, here's what people don't understand. Within our forever fraternity of authors, there's a lot of bullying and labeling within authors. This is horrible. It really, it's like being in a high school.
Very much so. Very much so. There's a lot of jealousy, a lot of bitterness, and I try and stay away from it. I'm happy for people who succeed, because we're all in this together. We all understand, like I said, the struggles and the triumphs, and the unbridled joy I felt the first time I held Salvation in the Woods in my hands, like the actual hard copy. That can never be taken away. And so I understand, like you said, you understand, and all of us understand each other. Mm-hmm. It is, I don't get the bitterness, and I try not dwelling on it.
Yeah, it's one of these, why are you bitter at someone else's success? We put in, right. The successful authors put in 10 hours a day or 4 hours a day, depending if they have a day job or they're full-time author. Mm-hmm. We put in so much work in writing. Then we go and do our marketing. Then we go do our advertising. If you're bitter, what is not working? There's coaches out here. I'm working with a great one right now. And any author that's listening to me, let me know, because I can connect you to this marketing genius right now, because he's bored, to help promote yourself as a brand. So, there's avenues out there. You don't have to be bitter. There's avenues for people to help you get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And, you said the 10 hours, the 4 hours, for every book that comes out, there's about 10,000 hours worth of work that nobody sees, that nobody typically, unless you're co-authoring a book, nobody else is going through that struggle of putting this work out, this art out. Mm-hmm. And I would say that the bullying and the negativity, I'd say probably like 5%. Most of the time it's 95 positive and support, but still, that's a very unnecessary number. We should all just support each other. If it's not my genre, then it's not my genre, but I'm still happy for the person who put their work out and achieved something. And,
right.
I have no problem promoting.
Exactly. We all promote each other, especially in Dragon Radion. I love you guys so much for this, because we cross-promote everyone that's in the house, as Absolutely. Well as other authors. We're a family. We have to have that family mentality.
Absolutely, and I feel nowadays like somehow I've picked the wrong generation to be an author in, because you go to the park, you see people playing on their phone. Nobody's sitting under a tree anymore reading a book. And that in itself is like slightly discouraging to me, but at the same time, for every one person you don't see it, there's somebody in their house reading. The people are still reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, how are they reading? Are they reading on their phones? Are they reading on a tablet? Or are they reading an actual book?
Right.
So we don't always see that. We assume they're playing video games, but they could be reading something on their phone. It's possible with the different apps. We just don't see it. So, where can our listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @JordanJT. That is my Twitter handle. You can find me on LinkedIn, T.J.Jourdan, and I have a Facebook page that is JT.Jourdan_author.
And are you thinking about getting Instagram?
I will be adding an Instagram. I'm thinking of adding There was some other social media site I was going to add, but as you can tell, that may have been it, yes. As you can tell, I'm not socially media inclined.
Yeah, neither am I. Believe it or not. I mean, you would think differently, but having the radio show and everything, but I'm not social media inclined. Don't forget, you can also find JT on the DoveandDragonPublishing.com website. That is under maintenance right now as we have new authors coming on board, so I have to get things put up there. And also, you can find interviews with JT on YouTube or just Google his name. Google is a friend, and you can find him. If you need to find him on Google, just put in his name, and it'll give you 5 pages where to find him at.
And for anybody who purchases any of my books, Salvation, Revelation, or Labeled, hit me up on Facebook on my author page. Hit me up on Twitter at WriteJT or at WriteJordan_JT. And get my Twitter name right. And let me know, and I will send you a personalized photo of the cover autographed by myself, thanking you for the purchase. Just something a little cool to send your way to show I appreciate you.
See? Go on these shows and you get free stuff.
Absolutely.
And until everyone's back to work from the pandemic, Dove and Dragon's doing free ebooks, but you have to get a hold of either the author or myself to get them. That's the only way you're getting a free ebook. So, I mean, everyone likes free stuff.
Yeah, who doesn't love free? I love free.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. JT has 3 books out. How about getting 3 free ebooks?
Exactly. That sounds perfect to me. That's a good day right there.
I know, right? So, but thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, Melissa. I enjoyed it.
And as soon as we get more books out, I'll have you back on.
Absolutely. Sounds perfect.
Okay, and for all the readers, happy reading.